Good evening, everyone, or anyone. We'll see how many people show up on the live part of this live live stream. That's what it is. I'm Gordon Causey. Always get down. This is my dog, Candy the Wonder Dog, who's jumping all over me because I give her a treat at the start of every video. I figure people like dogs. Most people like animals, especially dogs. Shake, lay down, speak. And when she does that, I give her a treat. I get peace. She stops jumping on me. Good evening, everyone. Where are we? Today is February the 24th, Monday, the 24th of February, 2025. And normally, my channel, I talk about news, current events, things that are happening in the world. I speak about my Christian faith, all manner of different topics. But quite frankly, there's not a lot going on in the world right now. There's always something going on. I mean, we have the situation. Donald Trump is a news cycle unto himself. Every day something comes out with Donald Trump. But it strikes me that all the news and current events percolating right now, they're more or less little brush fires. There's nothing really blowing up. It looks like Pope Francis might I would not be surprised if within the next week or two, if Pope Francis departed this world, and that'll be an interesting topic to cover with my thoughts and opinions on it. But we'll wait and see. He might make a strong recovery. Personally, I don't think so. The man is 88 years of age. No one gets out of here alive. But I thought I'd have a little bit of fun tonight and display something of a hidden talent, if you will. You can decide whether it's a talent or not. But I can do a variety of different accents for whatever reason, just a skill I've acquired or developed over the years. I think it's part of born of the fact that I spent some years growing up in New York and New Jersey, so I had to learn to talk like I was from New York, so I can do a New York style accent. And then we moved to Canada, and I learned to talk with a good Canadian accent with the closed vowel sounds. Then we moved out to Portland, Oregon, where you have to talk with long vowel sounds, and it's not hard to do Southern after that. You just take those long vowel sounds and add in a bit of a drawl to it. You know, my Southern accent's kind of all over the place. Might be Alabama, might be Florida, might be Texas. I don't know exactly where it's from. Like I say, it's a bit all over the place. Maybe it's in the Carolinas. Who knows? And then when I was 12, I had to start learning to speak French. And so before, you want me to talk a different way, donc I learned how to speak French. Je parle français comme une langue seconde, une langue deuxième, là. I speak mostly Quebecois style. I still have an English accent a bit, but in Canada we have the francophone when they talk. They maintain the rhythm of the French language when they speak in English, and it's neat. But anyway, I thought I'd tell some jokes tonight, just a few, highlighting different accents from different parts of the world. And I figured uh, we're coming up to St. Patrick's Day, uh, so some blarney seems like a good idea. And I thought I'd tell a couple for St. Patrick's Day. I'm thinking of doing a whole video on nothing but once we get close to St. Patrick's Day, doing a bunch of Irish jokes. But the two I'll tell right now is what's the difference between an Irish funeral and an Irish wedding? One less drunk. And the other one is what do you call two Irish homosexuals? That would be Patrick Fitzmark and Mark Fitzpatrick. A couple Irish jokes. Let's see, Italian. I like Italian jokes. There's this young kid, Rocco. Rocco's getting married, and before the wedding takes place, his old man comes up and he goes, "Son, I want to give us something to you. That my papa give it to me. He's a papa give it to him, and he's a papa give it to him. Every married man needs one." And the kid's like, hey, Pop, what are you going to give me? I got a Camaro. I got a nice stereo. What do I need? So old man pulls out a rusted out old shotgun. He goes, son, my papa give this to me. He's a papa give it to him. He's a papa give it to him. You a take, you are gonna need. So to make the old man happy, the kid takes the shotgun. He gets married, goes on his honeymoon. After the honeymoon, he's back living with his wife Maria. And the old man comes over to the apartment and he's looking all over for the shotgun that he'd given his son. He goes, son, what do you do with that shotgun that I give it to you because my papa give it to me? He's a papa give it to him. He's a papa give it to him. What do you do with it? Where do you hide it? And the kid goes, look, Pop, I don't want you to get mad or nothing, but I had to get rid of it. Maria didn't like it in the house. You got rid of that to shut the gun? My papa give it to me. He's a papa give it to him. He's a papa give it to him. What do you do with it? Hey, Pop, go calm down. I mean, Maria didn't like having a gun in the house. So I took it to a pawn shop. I swapped it. I traded it. What do you trade it for? He says, Pop, look, I traded it for a watch. I got myself a nice gold watch here. This is a Swiss watch. This is nice. I got a fair trade. And you trade that shot the gun. Mr. Bigger Shotty, eh? Don't need to shut the gun. You wanted a nicer watch. What's going to happen? One a day you gonna come home early from work. You find Maria in the bed with some guy. What you gonna do? Walk in and say, hey, Polly, it's a time for you to go. Italian. Know a couple Italian jokes. I'll throw another one out there. I might have told this before on my channel, but there's old Mr. Vincente, and he's got a beautiful vegetable garden, best in the neighborhood. And his prize is his tomatoes, biggest, juiciest, and most gorgeously red tomatoes you've ever seen in your life. And one day, a neighbor of his comes up and goes, so Mr. Linda, young woman comes up and says, Mr. Vincente, what is your secret? Your tomatoes are so big, juicy, and red. How do you get them so red? Mine don't red up. They're green. And he goes, Linda, I tell you my secret. Every morning, I take off all of my clothes. I get the bathrobe. I put the bathrobe on. I go out into my garden. And then in front of my tomatoes, I do the flash and I do a little dance. And the tomatoes, they get embarrassed and they turn all red. You try that, you have a big, a juicy red tomatoes. So they part company. A week or two goes by. Later, Mr. Vincente sees Linda and he walks up to her and says, Linda, you do what I tell you. You take off all of your clothes, put on the bathrobe, do the dance for your tomatoes. She goes, yes, I've been doing it for almost 2 weeks now. And he goes, Mr. Vincente says, and you have the big, juicy red tomatoes now, yes? And she goes, no, my tomatoes are still green, but my cucumbers are huge. But she put in a comment. Tell me which ones you like. And give me some more accents to do. I remember things when I'm hit with whatever, suggestions. Let's see. Russian. I love the Russian accent. There is Dmitry. Dmitry is living in Russia, and there is a shortage of vodka. Vodka is Dmitry is in line for 2 hours with his friend Yvonne. And after 2 hours of waiting to get one bottle of vodka, Yvonne says, I've had it. This is horrible. Putin, we must get rid of him. Dmitry, hold my spot in line. I'm going to kill Putin. And Yvonne leaves. Half an hour later, Yvonne comes back and Dmitry says, so, Yvonne, you kill Putin? Putin goes, Niet. Line up to kill Putin longer than line up for vodka. I like Russian accent, but most of the jokes I know are from the old Soviet era. That one was. There's another one from the old Soviet era when Dmitry had saved up all his rubles and was going to the Lada, the Soviet car manufacturer, and he wanted to buy a car. And he went to the Soviet car manufacturer and he said, I have saved up all my rubles. Here you go. I want to buy Lada car. And the Soviet Lada manager said, oh, it's no problem. You can pick up car 10 years from today. And says, okay, no problem. We'll be ready in morning or afternoon. Why? What differences make is 10 years from today? What difference is morning, afternoon? Dmitry says, yes, but I have plumber coming in morning. Anyway, Cryptomiri is here. Hey, I'm hoping you like the jokes. Let's see. Italian. I don't know any real French jokes. That's unfortunate. Uh, I don't know if I told this one on I think I told this one on my station before, on my short videos about President Trump traveling on a train. He's with the president of Mexico, the president of France, and the president of Russia. Who is with, I forget the woman's name, who's the president of Mexico, but Macron and Putin, Vladimir Putin. And the three of them are driving across the United States. And the president of Mexico, she takes out a bottle of tequila, pours herself a glass, takes one small little sip out of the glass, then throws the glass out the window and the bottle. And Trump is like, what are you doing, President? Why would you do that? Tequila is not cheap. Why would you throw it out the window? That's such a waste. And the president of Mexico, she goes, Senor, I am from Mexico. We have lots of tequila in Mexico. Okay. Then Macron of France, he pulls out a bottle of Dom Perignon champagne, pours himself a glass, takes one small little sip, throws the glass and the bottle out the window. And Trump is like, Emmanuel, what are you doing? Dom Perignon, that's very expensive. Why would you waste it like that? Emmanuel says, Monsieur le Président, in France, we have a lot of champagne. Huh? Then Vladimir Putin does likewise with the bottle of vodka. He pours a glass, takes a sip, throws it out the window, throws the bottle out. Trump is, what are you doing, Vladimir? Why would you throw out a perfectly good bottle of vodka? And Putin likewise says, in Russia, we have lots and lots of vodka. It's no big deal. Then Trump looks at the three of them and he walks over to the president of Mexico, picks her up, throws her out the window. The two, Macron and Vladimir, say, what are you doing? And Trump goes, in the United States, we have lots of Mexicans. Cryptomeria likes vodka. Let's see. Now, what's funny, I'm just curious. Yeah, I should tell an Indian joke. An Indian joke. East Indian. There's Sanjay. Sanjay is over at the neighbor's house. He's painting their house. And while he's working on the ladder, he's got the paint up high, but he's down low, and an accident happens. The ladder gets hit as he's walking underneath, and bam, he's covered from head to toe in white paint. So all angry and, ticked off, he starts walking home. And on his way home, his sister sees him. And his sister goes, oh my God, Sanji, what happened to you? Sanji says, I was painting the neighbor's house. There was white paint. It fell on top of me. Leave me alone. I'm going home to get cleaned up. He gets to the driveway of the house, and his grandfather is outside. And his grandfather says, oh my God, Sanji, what happened to you? He goes, I was painting over to the neighbor's house. It's white paint. It fell on me. I'm going to get cleaned up. Leave me alone. Then he gets up to the front of the house, and his dad's there. And his dad goes, oh my gosh, Sanji, what happened to you? Sanji says, I was painting the neighbor's house. I got some paint on me. Leave me alone. He walks into the house, and his mom sees him, and she goes absolutely crazy. Oh my God, Dad, Sanji, what happened to you? And he goes, oh my God, I've only been white for 2 minutes and already I hate all you Pakis. Now, I have told that to friends of mine who are East Indian and they've laughed their ass off, quite honestly. I'm a little leery about using that pejorative term, Paki. It's that's not a nice word, but it sells the joke a lot more. Now Jewish and Chinese. How about that? Let's try a Jewish Chinese joke. There's a Jewish gentleman and a Chinese gentleman sitting at a bar, and they're having a drink. Uh, Danny from Montreal has shown back up on the live. He's missed the last couple because his internet connection was down or whatever. He'd lost the internet, but he's back. Good to have you back, Danny. And Hank Holiday from down in great state of Texas is here. I'm doing accents tonight, guys, just for fun, because I really don't have a heck of a lot to talk about. It's going to be a shorter video tonight. I'm going to keep it under half an hour probably. But I was just about to tell this joke about a Chinese gentleman, Jewish gentleman. They're sitting at a bar, and suddenly, out of nowhere, the Chinese guy. Oh, wait a minute! I hate it when I mess up a joke. So they're sitting there having their drinks, and the Jewish guy. No, I gotta get this right. Oh man, I'm having trouble. So the Chinese guy walks up and he just cold cocks. Chinese guy cold cocks the Jewish guy. And the Jewish guy says, what was that for? Why are you hitting me? And the Chinese guy says, that was for you sinking Titanic. Chinese guy says, or Jewish guy says, I should have practiced this one beforehand. You know, Jewish guy says, what are you talking about? We didn't sink the Titanic. That was an iceberg. Chinese guy go, oh, iceberg, Goldberg, Rosenberg, all the same thing. And the Jewish guy walks over and pounds the Chinese guy. And the Chinese guy said, what you do that for? He goes, that was for Pearl Harbor. No, that wasn't Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor wasn't Chinese. That was Japanese. And the Jewish guy says, Chinese, Japanese, dirty knees, all the same thing. Actually, I told that one horribly. If I could edit that one out, I would, but I'm not going to bother. But it works better in the reverse. What's the difference between the Canadian Army and the Boy Scouts? This is from Danny. Danny's asking, what is the difference between the Canadian Army and the Boy Scouts? Okay, give us the answer because I do not know. The Boy Scouts are better equipped, better kit. None. Come on, don't leave us hanging there, Danny. What's the difference between the Canadian Army and the Boy Scouts? I'm waiting for Danny to answer. I should have, before reading it, let him put the answer, but whatever the case. I did hear a total dad joke just recently, and it is this. What do you call a pencil with an eraser at either end? What do you call a pencil with an eraser at both ends? Never mind, it's pointless. So, well, the answer didn't show up. Oh, okay. What's the difference between the Canadian Army and the Boy Scouts? Boy Scouts don't have heavy artillery. And I think I had it on Top Chat, not Live Chat. Amazing how what YouTube censors out. Unbelievable. Uh, I'm trying to think, trying to see if something will trigger in my mind. There's a World War One joke with the Germans and the British are fighting. over no man's land. And there's been about 2 weeks of no action, nothing happening on either side. And the British commander is getting rather antsy, rather upset. So what he does is he has them build out what they call a firing step. He digs a trench out into no man's land toward the German trench, and he sets up a machine gun. And the second in command says, what's the game here, sir? What are we planning to do? The Germans aren't fighting." And the commanding officer says, "Tell me, what is a good, average, basic, very common German name?" And his second in command goes, "Oh, I don't know. So I think Hans. Hans is quite common in Germany." And he goes, "Good." And they yell out, "Hans!" And the German sticks his head up and goes, "Yeah?" And they get him with the machine gun. So, "Hans! Yeah?" And they keep doing this over and over and over. They knock off about a dozen guys named Hans. Then they move on to Otto and some other German names, Friedrich. And then the German commanders are rather ticked off. So, all's fair, tit for tat. He digs out a firing step into no man's land toward the British trenches, and he gets his machine gun sets up and says to his second in command, "Was ist deine guten English Name?" And his second in command goes, "Ich weiß nicht. John. John ist eine guten English Name. Ja, John." So the Germans yell out, "John!" Nothing. "John!" No reaction. Very loudly, they yell, "John!" No reaction from the British side except someone yells, "John's not here. Is that you, Hans?" "Yeah." Old jokes. Uh, and every Hank, I got fired from the bank today. That's a good one. Hank writes, I got fired from the bank today. Yeah. A woman asked me to check her balance, so I pushed her. That's good. I'll tell you the joke. A joke that I told in the army uh, while I was at the radar station. And I was not with my regular crew. We had staffing shortages were common. Someone would go on leave and we'd backfill. It was a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week, 365. We never closed. And so I was backfilling and I was working. We had 4 shifts. We had Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta. And Alpha and Bravo shifts were working 12 hours, alternating back and forth. Charlie Delta were off, and vice versa. And we would swap people around when we were always short staffed. And so I was working with a crew of guys who I didn't know particularly well. And they were having some wild conversation. It was a midnight shift when you're working from 2000 8 p.m. until 8 o'clock in the morning, 0800. Long shift, boring. And they were talking about all kinds of stupid stuff like if your plane crashed, would you, and your life depended on it, would you be a cannibal? And would you eat a baby? Like this kind of stuff. It was really, but it's the army. What are you going to do? And anyway, so I threw, and then we started talking about all the politically correct stuff going on in the military. There was something called Operation Honor, where any sexual, anything of that nature would, be flagged. This was very much during the Me Too era. And it was funny to call it Operation Honor because in the military, an operation is typically shortened. You just say op. You say op nevis, op maple resolve, op whatever the name of the operation is. So when you say Operation Honor becomes Op Honor. Sounds like Hop Honor, and which was completely contrary to what Operation Honor was supposed to be about. So anyway, I told this joke, and the joke was this: gentleman, sorry, it's an office setting, and a woman comes into her manager's office and she says, I was just sexually harassed. And the manager's like, oh, all right, Linda, no problem. Have a seat right here. Just give me a sec. And he calls Betty, who's another worker in the office, and he brings her in. He says, "Now, Linda, I'm just asking Betty to sit in as a witness, and I've had all the training. I know exactly how to deal with these type of situations. I'm going to pull out this form here. It's a form that requires me to put down as much detail as I can the nature of the harassment. So, just get it all set up here. He puts the date, his name, who's in the room, and he goes, "All right, now whenever you're ready, if you can just give me as much detail as you can. No detail is too small. If you can tell me exactly what happened." So Linda says, "Well, I was lining up at the photocopier about 10 minutes ago, and there were several people in line, and Bob was the guy standing behind me, and he took a big deep breath and he said, 'Gee, Linda, your hair smells fantastic.'" And the manager's writing furiously, and he goes, "Okay, just a sec. And your hair smells fantastic." And he's, "Okay, you can continue, Linda." And Linda thinks, and she says, "Well, that's it. That was the harassment." And the manager's like, "Okay. Now, look, Linda, I want you to understand that if you say you have been harassed, then there is no question you have been harassed. That is not that I'm not questioning whether or not you were harassed, but it would help my report if you could explain why that situation, why what Bob said, why you would frame that as harassment, why you felt harassed by his comment." And Linda's, "I told you. It was Bob. He's a freaking midget." I told that joke. And immediately, two guys who were working kind of gave each other the look as if to say, "Ha ha." And with Operation Honor going on, I was told by the one of the two guys was a sergeant. I was just a corporal. And the guy, they said, "I'm going to have to send this up to the warrant. This could be serious. Fill your boots. Do what you got to do." And I got it. The sergeant had been a sergeant for 10 plus years. And of course, he thought he should have been a chief warrant officer by then. He'd been passed over. And the other kid was a corporal who was gunning. He wanted to make master corporal sergeant warrant. And they were looking to get brownie points. So I said, fine. And what I did that night, though, is I typed out my own letter to the warrant officer explaining the nature of the conversation that was going on before, what everyone was talking about, and that, it's like, and I gave that, but I was told by the warrant that it was being sent up the chain of command and that it could be very serious. And then couple weeks went by, nothing happened. I pretty much forgot about it. And then I got called in to the warrants office and I was told that you need to go see Sergeant so and so at HQ. But I didn't actually think anything of it because that particular sergeant was in charge of a lot of paperwork, especially related to your security clearance. And quite often things would lapse or there'd be a hole or they'd need some additional information. It had happened to me before where I'd had to go in and update my security clearance info. I'm like, all good. So I went down to see this sergeant and I sat down in his office. I said, "Hey, Sarge, what do you need?" And he said, "Well, I guess you know why you're here." And then I realized and I went, "Well, I do now." And he said, "Yeah." And then he proceeded to read me my rights. They were conducting an investigation with respect to the incident of about 2 weeks earlier at the radar station when I had told this joke. And then I was told that while no charges were being laid at this point, that following the investigation, charges could be forthcoming up to and including a court martial. And then I was asked if I wanted legal representation, and that if I didn't have any, and I didn't, that they would provide legal counsel through the JAG, Judge Advocate General. And I was like, all right, give me the number for the JAG. So I called a full colonel in Ottawa, explained the situation to him. And finally, this colonel, he just said to me, oh, just tell me the joke. So I said, fine. And I told him the joke. And he laughed. He laughed and he said, that's it? And I said, that's it. He goes, you've got it. They're investigating you for this? And I said, yes, sir. And he said, listen, here's what you're going to do. Any question they ask you, you just simply say, on the advice of counsel, I have nothing to say. And I said, really? And he goes, yep, that's it. That's all you are to say. If they ask you anything, I said, fair enough. I said, that makes my life easy. And he said, they may try and draw things out of you. Don't fall for it. Any question. I said, don't worry. They say that anyone who takes his own legal advice has a fool for a client. I'm listening to you. You have a legal degree. And he said, all right. And I, uh, I called the sergeant back in. I almost said his name. I don't want to. And I said, okay, I've spoken to the JAG. And he said, okay, I have to ask you a number of questions. And he said, first question was something like, can you tell me about the nature of the conversation that was taking place before you told this particular joke on the date of May, whatever it was, whatever year? And I said, on the advice of counsel, I have nothing to say. And so he wrote that down. And he said, why did you feel it was appropriate to tell that joke at that particular time? I said, on the advice of counsel, I have nothing to say. And then he wrote and he looked up and he said, uh, is that going to be your answer to all my questions? Yeah, that's going to be my answer. And he said, well, I still have to ask each one. It's protocol. I'm like, fine. So every time we went through about 10 questions, and each time you wrote it down. And then I was sitting on pins and needles for probably 2, 3 weeks when finally the warrant called me into the office, and I was told they dropped the charges, that no charges were going to be laid. It was a joke. Anyway, uh, yeah, Danny, the dirty joke. A white horse fell in the mud. Dirtier joke. Two white horses fell in the mud. And the dirtiest joke, three came out. All right, I'm going to end it off here and tell a joke, or rather like, and many you'll probably have heard it, but I'm going to say it anyway. And it sounds so much better with a British accent, with an English accent. So you got an eagle. Yeah, everyone knows what an eagle is, right? An eagle flying up in the sky, right? Eagle. That's as they do. He's flying around. An eagle spots a little dove. So the eagle sees the dove, flies down, has a bit of ding dong with the dove. And the eagle has his ding dong, flies away. Dove sitting there, and the dove says, I'm a little dove, and I've had a little love, but I liked it. And eagle's flying around. A bit later, eagle sees a little blue tit. So eagle goes down, has a bit of ding dong with the blue tit, flies away. Then the blue tit sits there and says, I'm a little tit, and I've had a bit of it, but I liked it. Then the eagle's flying around, eagle's looking, been with the dove, been with the blue tit. Now he spots a duck. So eagle goes down, has a bit of ding dong with the duck, flies away. Then the duck says, I'm a little drake. That eagle made a mistake, but I liked it. Um, Here's a good one. Danny is writing, anyone who tells me God doesn't have a sense of humor, explain the platypus to me. Uh, Duck-billed platypus, a little marsupial from down in Australia. I'll give you I'll end it off with I've gone a little over 30 minutes. And yes, Jesus is king. But most people aren't aware of the fact that actually the Bible talks a lot about constipation. Actually, there are five, I think it's five constipated men in the Bible. What are you talking about? Bible, it's in there because we all know that Cain was not Abel and that Moses had two tablets. He had to take two tablets. And we all know that Balaam had trouble with his ass, if you know the story of Balaam. And Solomon, Solomon sat on the throne for 40 years. And David, King David, no power of heaven or earth could move him. Anyway, those are the jokes. I just want to get some content out there. If you liked it, hit the like. I see I got a number of likes already, more than my political commentaries have been getting lately. Um, and also hit the subscribe button. I will be back talking about, we've got an election coming up on the 20, I think it's the 27th in Ontario. I haven't talked about it at all because it's a done deal. It's the biggest nothing burger election in Ontario history. Doug Ford is going to romp. I'm going to predict that he's going to get 100 plus seats. I mean, it's a nothing burger. It's a fait accompli. I bet you that Ontario doesn't even see 40% of registered voters going out to the polls. And NDP voters are not even going to show up. Oh, and what's the name of a lesbian dinosaur? I've got this one being written on a Lickalotopus. Uh, and whale oil beef from out in British Columbia. The one who put up on one of my recent joke videos, the little short ones that I've been doing, jokes, jokes, give us more jokes. Well, this was for you, whale oil, and you come in late. I wanted to. I'm gonna keep it going. I got another Jewish joke, and one of my favorites. It's about old Mr. Zadelman. Mr. Zadelman has been going to Benny's Delicatessen since he was a boy, since he was a young kid. Now he's like 80 years old, 80 plus. And Benny's Delicatessen has been around for like over 75 years. And Mr. Zadelman goes in, he gets at the lunch hour, he gets his normal soup, salad, sandwich. He goes to his favorite table. He's sitting there. Place is very busy. They're lined up at the counter. And Mr. Zadelman yells out, Benny, Benny, get out here. Get out here. I need to see you right now. And Benny is like super busy. The kitchen's crowded. The counter's crowded. He's like, Mr. Zadelman, I'll be there in a minute. Just give me a minute. Right now, Benny. Right now. I need to see you right now. And he's, Mr. Zadelman, it's the lunch rush. I'll be there as soon as I can be. It's Benny, he says, Benny, I've been coming here since your grandfather ran this place. I'm your oldest customer. I want to see you right now, Benny. So Benny's like, oh, all right. And he settles what he has to, behind the counter. And he finally comes out. He's half out of breath. And he's like, all right, Mr. Zadelman, what's the trouble? What's the problem? Mr. Zadelman says, Benny, I want you to taste my soup. Taste my soup, Benny. And Benny's like, what's the matter, Mr. Zadelman? Is it too hot? Is it too cold? Did we get the wrong soup order? And he goes, taste it, Benny. Taste my soup. Taste it. So Benny's like, all right, I'll taste your soup. And he looks down and he goes, Mr. Zadelman, you don't have a spoon. Aha! You have to have a Jewish sensibility for that joke, though. It'd be too easy to just say, I need a spoon. You got to be demonstrative. Anyway, uh, what do you call two lesbians in a closet? A liquor cabinet. Oh, what do you call two? I told this one earlier. What do you call two Irish homosexuals? That's Patrick Fitzmark and Mark Fitzpatrick. What do you call two Scottish? What do you call two Scottish homosexuals? That would be Ben Doon and Phil McCracken. Uh, at any rate, I'm going to end off. All right. we're coming up, I guess it's in a couple days on the 27th, so 24th, 25th, 20, so I think it's Thursday when we're Ontario's voting. I'll do a live video that night talking about the results, but I'm telling you right now, it's going to be a romp for Doug Ford's Conservative Party. I cannot stand Doug Ford. That's just a little editorial comment. Guy's a high school drug dealer, fully exposed in a brilliant piece of real journalism by the Globe and Mail years ago. Uh, that Dougie, said, I'm going to sue you, and never did because you can't sue someone for printing the truth. It was just Doug being Doug, and he's so in bed with the developers and wanting to basically take Ontario's green belt, what should be held by everyone, and selling it to his developer friends. I've got no use whatsoever for Doug, but unfortunately, the alternatives, as bad as Doug Ford is, the alternatives are even worse. So what are you going to do? This is democracy gives you the choice of which party to vote with or choose which brand of razor blades you'd rather slit your wrists with. What we're in. So anyway, thank you for watching, everyone. Thank you for the 8 thumbs up. And if you're new to this and you enjoyed it, give me a subscription. Ring the bell. Hit the subscribe button. Join the 1,100 or so other people who are on my station. Maybe start boosting that number up. Hopefully get it up to 12, 13. Who knows? Who knows what can happen? Now, I've got whale oil writing about the fact that years ago, Doug's brother Rob put Toronto on the map for all the wrong reasons. Rob Ford had more of the common touch. Doug's got a bullying type aspect to him. So did Rob Ford too. But Rob Ford had a down to earth quality that Doug doesn't have. The Ford brothers, both they were engaged in drug dealing. Only thing is, Dougie, by all accounts, never touched the product. But his brother, Rob Ford, as we all know, did engage, and he inhaled. Anyway, God bless. Hope you liked the jokes. If you didn't like my jokes, write it down below. I don't mind. And the humor notwithstanding, I still want to end this with the blessing I end all my videos with. May the Lord bless and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you. And may the Lord grant you peace. And he will. Eat Me got here late, saying hi to everyone. I almost feel like I should go on a little more. I'll tell a couple religious jokes just for fun. About a Scotsman is in the Holy Land. He's at the Sea of Galilee, and there's a guy operating a boat who will take you across the Sea of Galilee. So the Scotsman goes, all right, how much? And the boat operator says, to go across, it's $100 US. And he goes, oh, what are you crazy? I'm not going to pay $100 US to go across that bit of water there. Forget it. And the boat operator says, sir, this is the water. This is the Sea of Galilee. Jesus walked on this. And the Scotsman says, for $100, I'd walk too. Anyway, haven't got too many religious jokes. Actually, I do have one. Jesus is playing golf, and Moses is caddying for him. And they're playing Pebble Beach, or one of a famous course that is on the PGA Tour. I don't know which one, maybe the Amen Corner or whatever at Augusta, wherever. And they're playing out a hole that plays out over water. And Jesus looks at Moses and says, "Give me my 9-iron." And Moses says, "What are you talking about? A 9-iron? You can't hit it there with a 9. You need a 4 or a 5." And Jesus says, I saw Tiger Woods play this exact same hole, and he put it right next to the pin with a 9 iron. Give me the nine. And Moses says, hey, you may be the savior you might be, the bread of the Lamb of God, but you're not hitting there with a nine. You need a four or a five. Trust me. Jesus says, if Tiger can do it, I can do it. Takes his 9 iron, hits the ball right into the water. And Moses says, I told you, but don't worry. I only brought one ball, but I've got you covered. Moses walks out. He parts the waters, retrieves Jesus's ball, puts it back on the tee, and says, all right, now use a four or a five. You're not going to get there with a nine. Jesus says, if Tiger can get there with a nine, so can I. Hits the ball again right into the water. And Moses says, look, I can't be doing this all day. I died 2,500 years ago. I'll get the ball. This is the last time. And he walks out, parts the water, grabs the ball, puts it back in the tee. Now, I'm telling you, use a four or a five. If you hit it in the water again, I'm not getting your ball for you. And Jesus says, I don't need your help. And hits with the 9 iron. And again, he puts it right into the middle of the water. And Moses says, well, I warned you, you don't have any more balls, and I'm not potting the water again. The game's over. And Jesus says, I don't need you to help me. He goes into the bag, he gets the telescopic ball retriever, he walks out on the water, and he's scooping the ball off of the bottom of the lake. And the next foursome comes up, and they see Jesus out walking on the water, retrieving his ball. And the guys look over at Moses and they go, who does that guy think he is? Jesus Christ? And Moses says, no, he thinks he's Tiger Woods. Anyway, God bless. 47-minute long video. We'll see if what's happening in the world tomorrow, the next day. Love all you guys for showing up. I'm what's a gay dinosaur called? Oh, some of these are bad. I'm going to get labeled a homophobe, but whatever. What's a gay dinosaur called? A megasaurus. That's horrible. That's horrible. Um, anyway, uh, looks like I've caught up. Great jokes, everyone. I hope you enjoyed mine. I'll do this again in a week or two. I know, the great thing is when I sit down, he's playing a baseball team, and there was guy Paul and I, and we could go back and forth because as soon as you hear a joke, it reminds you of three more, and he was the same way as myself, and we went back and forth for all one night after one of our baseball games. So anyway, uh, we will. Oh, I got to save some for the next time. Anyway, God bless y'all, and we'll talk to y'all in a few nights, if not tomorrow. All right, ending it off.